Fitting that I'm standing in the middle of a circle, and you're going to learn more about that as I talk about the Compassionate City Project. I want you to imagine a city that's not defined by its roads, its buildings, its parks, but I want you to just imagine a city that is defined by its inclusivity, its diversity. So the concept I'm going to be talking about today has the power to change community and redefine a city. So I became mayor, and when I became mayor, I started to learn more about the issues that face communities not just in St. Catharines but across the country. We're a mid-sized city. Issues like poverty, mental illness, addiction, those things that happen in our community that we don't really talk about often enough. And when you look at how we change communities, I had an opportunity to go to a couple of poverty summits. And as I was listening to those at the poverty summits talk about what we're doing and how we're trying to help those in our community, we could talk about transit, we could talk about affordable housing, we could talk about the kind of help that helps people get back on their feet. But I kept writing down this one line, and it starts from within. It's this concept of starting from within. And so when I came back, I kept coming back to this simple line. And what does starts from within mean? So looking at community, I started to see community as a circle. And so when you look at the city of St. Catharines and you look at it from the perspective of a circle, much like I'm in today, ask yourselves, I want you to close your eyes and picture a circle. And who do you see in that circle? Your mom and dad, your parents, your brothers and sisters, your friends, your neighbors. Now I want to ask you about those who, do you see the homeless person in that circle? Do you see the young mother who has an autistic child who hasn't been able to go out for dinner in a month? Do you see the older widowed woman who no longer has a family network? Do you see the sex trade worker? Do you see the drug addict? Because they don't see themselves in that circle. And I'm sure a lot of us folks don't see themselves in that circle as well. So that brings us to the concept of compassionate city. Because as part of a compassionate city, we are all inside the circle. We stand inside the circle. There's no one who's invisible. There's no one who's marginalized. And how do we use our sight? How do we use a lens to ensure that we're inside that circle? So it starts with the lens of compassion. We get up every day and we put a lens on how we look at the world. We got a lens of indifference. We have a lens of apathy, frustration, anger. There's these lenses that we put on, whether you wear glasses or not, we put them on every day. The Compassionate City Project is saying you can put on a compassionate lens every day. And why did we choose compassion? What is it about that word? Compassion is care plus action. We all care for one another. I see that every day as mayor. We all care for one another. But it's the action part that has the opportunity to change how we think. It has the opportunity to get to the root causes of poverty. So the Compassionate City Project is about changing how we see one another. It's about how we interact with one another. And I believe that that is the way that you can get to the root causes of addiction, of mental health, of poverty, the cycle of poverty that is affecting more and more people in our community, that is marginalizing more and more people that surround us. Through the compassionate lens, you can make a difference. Because while I believe it's important that we can give to an organization, or that we can donate to an organization, or we can retweet about a cause that we believe in. There's more that needs to be done, and that starts with how you approach, how you think about those beside you, how you think about your neighbors, your friends down the road, but also those that have been largely marginalized to the point of being invisible. So I'll just share a quick story. As mayor, I've been talking about the Compassionate City Project for the better part of last year. I had an opportunity to go away last year. We went to Nova Scotia with my family, and during that time, there was a sweep in a part of our city. The police went in and arrested a whole bunch of folks. They're called prostitutes. They're really sex trade workers. And the paper had it on the front cover. They were handcuffed. And all across my social media feeds, I started getting these tweets and messages, Facebook messages in Halifax. And I'm thinking, what's going on in my city? Get in contact with my staff, and they're saying, Mr. Mayor, the community is talking about how the police went in and arrested these women. You got to do something about it. I said, let it sit for a bit. So I had an opportunity to come back a few days later, and what it showed to me as I read through the feeds, it was, Mr. Mayor, how is this a compassionate city when you're arresting these women? Mr. Mayor, how are you showing compassion when these women who are down on their luck are being put in jail? Mr. Mayor, how is this a compassionate city? And the unique aspect of it is, if this incident would have happened 2 years ago, it would have been on the front page and then forgotten about. The women would have been invisible. But now, because of the Compassionate City Project, the community was saying, how is that compassion? We need to work with these women. We need to work with the women to ensure that they are brought back into our community, that they are given the supports, not put in jail, given the supports to try and get their life back on track. That showed that using a lens of compassion works, because we were able to change and work with the Niagara Regional Police and social agencies to give the women the opportunity to get back on their feet, to break the cycle of poverty. That's what Compassionate City means, and that's what Compassionate City is doing. You have the power to look at community in a different way. Using compassion, you can be the change. You can make the change. So my ask is this. Just imagine if St. Catharines was known as the most compassionate city in Canada, or how about North America, or the world? How would you see, and who would you see in that circle? Thank you.